really proud that so many folks in Denver could make it with no notice here today for Ralph. We got some good speakers. We got the billionaires for Bush or Gore to help us warm up. Let's hear it for our chickens. We're also going to hear from Nancy Harvey, who's the Colorado campaign coordinator for Nader. We're going to hear from Ron Forthover, who's the candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. And we're going to hear from Dennis DeMayo, who is with the National Writers Union, who has been following Nader. So thanks again for coming. Let's get friendly. Let's give the Merc some business, because Maryland and the Merc rock. Take it away, billionaires.
Quiet down, peasants. I'm actually quite miffed at why you're all here, because our candidates have already won. So you're just deluding yourselves by being here, because we've already picked our candidates and we already had our celebration in Philadelphia and Los Angeles. We had a big party and a lot of people came out. We spent a lot of money and we ate a lot of food.
And they're all paid off already.
What I want to know is, what are you people doing here? We don't pay you enough for you to come out to an event like this. You're supposed to be out there working, making more money for us. So let's get with the program, people, okay?
Don't you know there's a football game on right now? The resistance is futile.
Borg.
Come on, there must be somebody.
Step up and be bought off. How can we buy your vote?
Just remember our slogan, people. Bush or Gore, Bush or Gore. We don't care who you vote for. We own them both.
All right, we're going to start with a little chant. Can you repeat after me? This is what plutocracy looks like. Oh, come on, you're not enthusiastic. This is what plutocracy looks like. This is what plutocracy looks like. This is what plutocracy looks like. Okay, now that I've got that through your head, you're going to vote for one of our two-party candidates. No. Come on, it's very hot in here. We can all go home.
Look, come on, people. We've got a nice, cozy little system here. We've spent a lot of our unearned money buying off the Democrats and Republicans, and now you people come along and want to mess with things? I mean, really? Get with the program, will you please?
What if Ralph Nader in a book like William Buckley? Come on. Must be somebody here who wants to buy this. It's worth $1 million.
Have you ever heard of the Electoral College? We own them. It's $1 million per vote. Which one of you in here has $1 million to step up and buy an Electoral College vote here in Colorado? Anyone? Oh, you! Oh, see?
That's our slogan, $1 million, one vote.
All right, any questions for us?
Where's Nader?
Where's Nader?
We kidnapped him.
He's at the Broncos game. How much did it cost to buy Gore and Bush?
How much did it cost combined? Probably.
No,
Gore and Bush? Well, what we do is we basically invest in the two candidates, and we get usually somewhere up to 100,000 to 1 on our return through what's called lobbying. That's what you call it. We call it investment. Bribery. That's a very dangerous word.
Do you have to buy them, or do they give it away free?
Hey, our kids go to the same school.
No, if they gave it away free, they wouldn't be what they are. Which I think you follow me on that.
Rather than chippy.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, what school is that?
One at a time, please. See, you guys are all just climbing all over each other to get at us.
Presidential debate committee.
What school do I go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those Ivy League schools. I can't remember. I have to look at my diploma. Anything above an F is intelligence. Am I a frat boy? Of course.
Who runs the Presidential Debate Commission?
Anheuser-Busch runs the Presidential Debate Commission.
This one's for you.
This bush is for you.
What's your favorite brand of cigarettes?
They'll follow you home and beat you up.
This bud's for you?
This bush is for you.
Oh, Bush. What? Your question?
This debate is coming up. It's for Trump. Where's ours?
Where's your debate?
Yeah.
It'll probably be on Larry King.
You don't seriously think we're going to let an intelligent person like Ralph Nader debate these two dummies we've got running for president, do you? I mean, come on!
Saturday Night Live possibilities.
Well, there is commercial space still available. And I believe that if Nader's serious, he should buy some commercial space during that time. And then he can use that to debate them. He'll have a 30-second rebuttal against all their 10 minutes of time, which is about equal or greater than what I understand the polls are right now. So our candidate has about 80%, is running about 80%, 85% in the polls right now, which equals about 40% of the actual population. So join the other 60% in complete apathy, go home and watch TV, watch the debates, enjoy, drink a Budweiser, smoke the Philip Morris, and just kick back and let us run the show. We've been doing it for hundreds of years, and it's a two-party system. Quit shaking things up. You're just making it bad on yourselves.
See, it's not like you don't have a choice. You've got the anti-abortion corporate party and the pro-choice corporate party. So, I mean, what's all this Green Party nonsense?
They want to squeeze more of you in here. I can't believe that so many of you have turned out to see this man speak. You like Ralph Nader? You're willing to cram into a small room in some hippie den, be all sweaty and stinky all next to each other just to hear some guy talk about consumer advocacy and some environmental stuff. Living wage, you're alive right now. What are you talking about? Okay, well, we have to go. We have a jet to catch. We see that we're not well liked here. promote your fears, not your hopes.
We don't want this kind of politics around here. All right, hi. My name is Nancy Harvey. Thanks so much to all of you for coming. I have the pleasure of being the Colorado campaign coordinator for the Nader 2000 campaign. It's really exciting. Like Karen said before, we're in the midst of a really exciting campaign here. Nationally, poll numbers are going back up. Ralph Nader's appearance a few weeks ago in Portland, Oregon drew 10,000 people that paid. Plus, they paid money to see a politician speak. Doesn't happen very often, and it was sold out. There are plans now to organize another 3 or 4 events like that around the country. Just imagine the kind of press we could get if we could pull that off, and we might even try for one here. So we'll keep you posted. Locally, the campaign has been drawing many enthusiastic supporters. Our meetings have had over 40 and 50 people showing up in Denver and Boulder. Hundreds of volunteers have already signed up, and we have gathered a great campaign team together to take us into the last 9 weeks. There's only 9 weeks left before Election Day. Around the state, there are a lot of activities as well. There's Robert and Ruth Mahaney that are organizing like crazy down in Pueblo, where there was no Green Party before. They probably already distributed a couple thousand flyers on Nader campaign and the green values and why we're all doing this. There's also activity in Colorado Springs and on the western slope. Nader was just at a rally last night in Montrose, and we're organizing people down there in some of the little mountain towns. Up in Fort Collins, the Poudre Valley Greens yesterday were hard at work. They had a protest outside Anheuser-Busch to bring attention. Yep. And then across the state, Damon Haley has been coordinating student groups all across campuses. And it's just amazing how much energy there is involved in this campaign. I'm sure all these efforts will receive a tremendous boost when we open up our official campaign office in Denver this week, which should be opening on Wednesday if all goes well. 2785 North Spear Boulevard, Suite 305 in Denver is going to be the place where we hope a lot of you will come and help us answer phones, do mailings, and all kinds of stuff. We need volunteers, so hopefully we'll see you there. We'll probably be having an open house party sometime around maybe the 22nd. So if you sign up on our volunteer sign-up sheets, they're at the table downstairs. We'll definitely get a hold of you. We do a lot of things via email, so we'll let you know when it's happening. Also, there are many ways for you to get involved. There's everything from phone banks to mailing parties to helping us out, and also with money, because to take a big grassroots green effort, we need your green dollars as well. So what you can do for that is make checks payable to the Nader 2000 General Committee. And you can sign the volunteer sheets, visit our website. We have a wonderful website at www.greens.org/Colorado/Nader2000. And also, of course, most of you have seen the amazing Nader website, www.votenader.org. A couple other things I wanted to mention. We want to get everyone to get their voices mentioned about getting Ralph in the debates. We have these great yellow flyers on the table. Pick those up. There's things that says what you can do. So please add your voice. Already there's been over 64% of the people in America said they want him in the debates. There is an electronic petition that already 60,000 people have signed and said, yes, let's get him in the debates. So please add your voice to that. It's going to take all of us to do that. We also wanted to announce a couple of events that are happening around town. Tomorrow on the Auraria campus at the Tivoli Center, Tivoli Turn Hall on Denver's Auraria campus, There's going to be a forum on globalization, the WTO, the World Bank, and the war on drugs, and what you don't know about globalization. And we're tying that in, of course, to the Nader campaign, because he's, of course, talking about corporate interests and how they're ruling the world and the United States economy and politics. So please go there. Some of the speakers are going to be talking about NAFTA. They're going to be talking about IMF, the World Bank. They're also going to be talking about strategies that people can use to challenge corporate power. And then the day is going to be topped off with our own wonderful David Barsamian from KGNU, Alternative Radio, at 4 o'clock. Again, it's going to be 9:30 to 5 tomorrow at the Turnhole, Denver's area campus. So check that out. And another wonderful thing, Jackson Browne and Bonnie Raitt are going to be in Denver Friday the 15th to do a benefit concert. And tickets are $42, and they need to be made out to the Nader 2000 General Committee. The money is going to go right into that. And we have Lisa here selling tickets today, so you don't have to go down to the Fillmore. It's going to be at the Fillmore next Friday. So finally, I want to encourage you all to get involved. Don't forget, if you aren't registered to vote, the deadline is October 10th. So get those registrations in. Colorado is a key state with the highest percentage of unaffiliated voters in the country. Our goal is to reach all of them with the message of Ralph Nader's candidacy and the goals of the Green Party. We want to get the most votes possible for Ralph and build the party for the future. We're not just doing this for this, we're going to go way beyond this election. So we need your energy and time. And again, of course, we need your green dollars as well. So it takes money to get the message out and to pay for the office and run the office. Please get involved. Now I wanted to introduce, let's see, is Ron Forthover? Did he? Oh, great, good. Thanks, Ron. Good. Glad you came. I have the pleasure of introducing both of our speakers. Well, not Ralph. Somebody else is going to do that. But I'm going to introduce Ron Forthover. He is the Green Party congressional candidate for District 2. Thank you. And he's an amazing man with excellent qualifications. He's a former professor of biostatistics at the University of Texas School of Public Health. He's been active in the local Peace and Social Justice Committee, a board member of the Boulder Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center that we all know very well around here, all their good work. He's been on that board for 5 years. He's also been working with the Christian Peacemaker teams and the Front Range Fair Trade Coalition. Many of his campaign issues are similar to those of our presidential candidate, Ralph Nader: corporate welfare, food safety and genetically engineered foods, healthcare reform, and he's also focusing on strategies to deal with global warming and a real campaign finance reform. I'll let Ron tell you more, so let us all give a big welcome to Ron Forthover. Thanks.
All I can say is, wow, what a turnout. This is cool. I think Ralph is going to love this. Sorry to be a little late. I just got here. We taped a forum this morning on Channel 12 of the 4 candidates for District 2, and I had to dress up and things, unusual. Yeah, you can view our forum on Channel 12 on September 20th at 9 p.m., so here's a chance to see what all 4 candidates have to say. It's a real pleasure to see such a great crowd and to have the opportunity just to say a few words to you. As Nancy said, most of the issues I'm running on are the same ones that Ralph is talking about, so I won't really say a whole lot. One key issue for me that there's a real sense of urgency about this election. If Ralph Nader, probably the greatest person we can have as a candidate for president, if he cannot get 5% of the vote, what does that say? We've got to get this man in the debates, and we've got to make sure that he gets 5% of the vote. We're at danger of losing our democracy. When you see 49% of the people, eligible voters, voting in 1996 in the presidential election, when you see 30% or 20% voting in local elections, this is not a democracy. What Nader and the Green Party are doing are trying to give people a reason to vote. All right? Vote your host. not your fears. Yeah, what we have to do is get people turned on to the idea that there are candidates that are standing for them, that are representing them, and that's what we're trying to do. So the urgency is there. We have to get a good turnout, get people registered to vote. The other reason for urgency is that global warming is happening, folks. It's there, and we humans are playing a role in it. Right? If we are to take seriously what we're talking about in terms of putting people and planet before profit, putting human need before corporate greed, we've got to elect people who take these things seriously, who are willing to implement ideas. We have the knowledge, we have the research already done, we have the technology, it's there. It behooves us to get people out there who will implement the ideas. Because if we don't deal seriously with global warming now, right, we will be stealing the future of our children and our grandchildren. And for you young folks, you'll be seeing a very different future for yourselves. So we need to be doing things on global warming. And this is one of the key issues in this that both mainstream parties are ducking and ignoring. We've got to deal with this issue now. Just a real quick, there are a couple other issues. As you know, we in the Green Party are for ending the drug war, all right? We stand for a woman's right to choose. Equal pay for equal work. And we need to bring in all people under this tent. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights says it very well. Living wage jobs, food, housing, health care, education. These are rights, not privileges, and they're rights for all of us. We're in this together. Thanks for your attention. I'm off the stage now so we can get to our featured speaker.
Actually, one more who's going to introduce our featured speaker, and that will be Dennis DeMaio. Dennis is a vice president of the National Writers Union, which is a rapidly growing union of writers that has over 6,400 members. He's a labor journalist by trade. He's a delegate to the local Central Labor Council. He wants to tell us about some ideas from one labor perspective on why we need to endorse Ralph Nader. So let's welcome Dennis DeMaio.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I came here today to declare my public support for Ralph Nader's candidacy for president. Like many of you, I share a vision that Mr. Nader has. And this vision is that the overwhelming and predominant problem in our democracy today is the corporate domination of our political and economic institutions in this country. If we perpetually engage in the lesser of the two evils, or the evil of the two lessers, however you want to look at it, there will be no progressive change in this country. That is certain. And if we don't do this now, when are we going to do it? If Ralph Nader doesn't do this, who is going to do it? Who has a better track record standing up to corporate America and corporate greed? I want to point out, and I won't take too much of your time because Ralph can certainly articulate these issues better than I can, but as a labor activist, I come here and I want to tell you and share with you some of my rationale and philosophy behind supporting Ralph Nader's candidacy. And I'll start with number one for a trade unionist, and that has to do with comprehensive labor law reform. Ralph Nader put a challenge out there in this campaign. He challenged all candidates running for president to address the issue of the repeal of the Taft-Hartley Act. The Taft-Hartley Act, what we call in the labor movement the Slave Labor Act, crippled union organizing in this country. From the period of 1936, when the Wagner Act was passed, the National Labor Relations Act, there was a heyday of organizing in this country. From 1936 to 1947, we had 36% of all workers in this country organized. And then what happened? Then what happened is a very repressive piece of legislation called the Taft-Hartley Act. When that was passed, union membership started to plummet. That is what brought in right to work for less possibilities from states and a whole series of other problems and hurdles put up with organized labor. Ralph Nader is the only candidate in this race who has addressed and come out for the repeal of the Taft-Hartley Act. He's the only candidate who's come out and said when union organizers are fired, they deserve triple back pay. He wants to expand the power of the National Labor Relations Board, that black hole. When things go in there, they just don't come out. What he wants to do is to expand the power so that the NLRB can issue injunctions against employers who engage in flagrant conduct and unfair labor practices. Mr. Nader also stands for the banning of permanent replacing of striking workers. Something I would add that the president and vice president did not lift a finger to get passed. You remember how he burned up the telephone lines to pass NAFTA. Where did he expend any political capital to get that bill passed? Nowhere. And Ralph Nader calls for that, and that's why Ralph Nader deserves our support. Believe me, us trade unionists aren't one-dimensional. I want to talk about health care. I want to talk about the fact that there are 47 million people in this country who don't have health insurance. That is a national crime and disaster. In the U.S., we spend 24 cents out of every dollar on health care that goes into health care on administrative costs. In Canada, they do 11. Mr. Nader supports single-payer, universal health care, and we need that now. An alphabet soup of agencies, IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, NAFTA, an alphabet soup of repression. Ralph Nader stands for free trade, for fair trade instead of free trade, and he deserves our support for that. I'm going to leave this to Ralph Nader because he can certainly articulate these issues better than I, but I really want to urge everybody to get behind Ralph Nader's candidacy and support him. He needs our help more than anything. If we're going to have an alternative, progressive party in this system, we need to do it now, and we need Ralph Nader to articulate these messages.
Thanks, Dennis. Where's Dennis? Okay, Dennis, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is a terrific, thank you very much, Dennis. Appreciate your comments. This is really a great turnout on only about 3-4 days' notice up against the Broncos and the Rockies. Don't you have a baseball and football today? Well, we now have, yeah, that's right. This is a very good turnout. As a matter of fact, it could be 400, is it? Or 500? All right, here it is. 500, each one of you gets 100 votes each from your circle of relatives, friends, neighbors, co-workers, acquaintances, with whom you have great credibility because it's your circle, and you've got 8 weeks to talk up all these issues, some of which Dennis mentioned. You've got all kinds of time to replace, gee, I wonder what the weather is going to be tomorrow, with, I wonder what our democracy is going to be like tomorrow. And if you bring them to the polls, you know, at breakfast on election day, just to bring them to the polls, 100 each on the average. You know, you sign the pledge, you're going to bring 100. That is, right out of this Mercury Cafe, 50,000 votes for the Green Party and the Nader and this isn't just a multiplication table. This can happen because you all have people who look up to you, listen to you, argue with you, and you can get it done that way. Now, they're going to ask you all kinds of questions. They're going to say, well, I don't want to throw away my vote. I don't want to waste my vote. So you say, well, then it's quite logical you'll vote Green, because why would you want to waste your vote on those two parties that have been wasting our democracy? Then they'll say to you, well, you know, the Green Party's a spoiler party. And you say to them, really? How can you spoil a political system that's spoiled to the very core? It's not possible. Well, a vote for the Green Party and the Nader-LeDuc candidacy is a vote for a new democracy in very specific ways. It's a vote for public funding of public campaigns and getting dirty money out of our elections. It's a vote for universal, accessible health insurance coverage with an emphasis on preventive care. It's a vote for the kind of environmental advance that means cracking down on the motor vehicle industry and getting rid of an 8-year Clinton-Gore holiday and making them build more fuel-efficient cars and cars that don't pollute. It's a vote to expose Al Gore's hypocrisy compared to the book he wrote in 1992. It's a vote for a major national solar energy conversion mission. It's a vote for allowing our farmers to do what other farmers are allowed to do and export to the U.S. For allowing our farmers, finally, to grow industrial hemp, the greatest, most versatile a product grown by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, but a product now that is prohibited by our farmers growing it. It's legal under the Clinton-Gore administration to import industrial hemp from Canada, Hungary, France, China, but it's not legal for our farmers to grow it. This is the most versatile plant that's ever been domesticated. It provides food, it provides fuel, it provides fiber. It produces thousands of products, from medicines to textiles to cosmetics to lubricants. It replaces the need to cut down trees for paper with better paper. It produces paper without the need to use chlorine, another major reduction. It produces fuel, which is reduce our reliance on imported oil and our reliance on coal and nuclear power. It's time for the presidential campaign to raise this kind of issue and to raise a lot of issues whereby smaller companies are proving that they can maximally recycle, they can maximally cut pollution by a massive amount, like the Interface Corporation, Atlanta, Georgia, which is the second largest commercial carpet and tile corporation, moving towards zero pollution, maximum recycling of their products, reducing their costs, and hurling these feasibilities at these giant corporations who every time you say to them, stop poisoning our environment, stop contaminating our water, stop polluting our air, stop strip mining our soil, stop poisoning our food, say, no, we can't do that. We don't know how to do that. We don't have the technology to do that. It's too costly to do that. Well, how come Interface Corporation can do it? How come some smaller companies can do it? So we're going to give these companies a highlight visibility. We're going to introduce them to Al Gore and George W. Bush, who spend their time raising millions of soft money dollars from all these big companies, the big drug companies, oil companies, coal companies, Intels and Microsofts and Cisco's and all the other companies, and General Motors and General Foods and General Dynamics. They're looking for Colonel Sanders now, I suppose. So we're going to highlight those. By the way, look at those two men running for office here. Al Gore, who basically looks at every week as makeover week. So he now tells us, with forked tongue protruding, that he's going to fight for us against big oil and the big corporate polluters and the big drug companies and the big HMOs. To which I reply, Al, where were you 8 years? On your knees, surrendering the U.S. government, surrendering your trusteeship over our democracy to the demands of these giant corporations, for which there seemed to be no limit to their greed. A vote for the Green Party candidates is a vote for human need, not corporate greed. Yeah. I saw that on a billboard between Montrose and Grand Junction this morning. A Green Party billboard. Hey. A vote for human need, not corporate greed. What does that mean? It's a vote that says, if Western European countries coming out of the war-torn years of World War II could provide their people in the 1950s and 1960s with universal health care coverage, with laws that facilitated the formation of trade unions, with full paid maternity leave, with full paid sick leave, with public transit allowing people to get to work who couldn't afford a car, with adequate pensions. If they could do it in the 50s and 60s, we're going to do it, at least in the year 2000, huh? Can't we do that? Can't we start doing it in the year 2000? We're the biggest, richest country in the world. The trouble is that we have turned over our democracy and our government to these two parties who've hijacked them and sold them to the highest big business bidders. And that is unconscionable. It's unconscionable from the principles of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, from the statements of Abraham Lincoln, and from statements of many other of our forebears who basically warned us that we must maintain a representative government to counteract what Jefferson called the excesses of the moneyed interests in those days. And today, it's the excesses of the global corporate interests, global corporations that have no allegiance to the United States of America other than to control it, because they are pitting one government against another through many maneuvers worldwide, and through now the international autocratic systems of governance that are called WTO, GATT, and NAFTA, which subverts our democratic processes and subordinates our health and safety progress in environment, workplace, and marketplace to the supremacy of international corporate commercial trade. This is what our political leaders have done. And it's time to give them a statute of limitation. It's time to grow a new political party that says that this country embark on a new path to the future, which involves the abolition of poverty in America. We can do it. We can do it. Which involves the enforcement of our civil rights laws from A to Z, so people have an opportunity to make it on their merits and not be discriminated against in such cruel ways. And do you know that the Justice Department under Clinton Gore in the Civil Division, the lawyers told us a few weeks ago that in the 3 areas of major law enforcement, housing discrimination, affirmative action, and police brutality, that the Clinton Gore administration, in terms of litigation enforcement, were worse in the area of affirmative action and police brutality than Reagan Bush. The only place they were a little better was in housing discrimination cases. Is that what we're supposed to expect this Democratic Party to be like? And under Clinton Gore, the record on civil liberties is atrocious. 40 articles by Anthony Lewis in the New York Times over the last 5 years document the regression in civil liberties toward immigrants, toward due process, toward habeas corpus. One area after another. There hasn't been a worse administration in civil liberties. And these are the Democrats. You usually think of the Democrats as being a little better in civil rights and civil liberties. They are rhetorically, but look at the record. The only thing that really counts is the record, not the sweet talk, not the slogans, not the statement by Al Gore every day as he campaigns, when he looks at you like this and he says, "I'm for the people. They're for the powerful." Or, who is he kidding? Who in the country believes Al Gore anymore? Al Gore no more. That's what we used to say. Al Gore no more. The American people, half of whom stay home in presidential elections, so disgusted they are with politics and so possessed of the feeling that their vote doesn't count, that they don't matter. And why go to the polls for a charade between the two parties who are increasingly morphing into one giant corporate party with 2 heads wearing different makeup? The American people deserve a better choice than a choice between the bad Democrats and the worst Republicans. That's not good enough. This Democratic Party now defines itself by how bad they think the Republicans are. I mean, instead of defining itself by how much better it can become, every time you criticize the Clinton Gore administration and the Democratic Party strategists, you know what they say to you? They say, "Do you know how bad George Bush and Republicans are?" Imagine a party that defines itself by the worst instead of by the best. And we're going to give them the best, aren't we? By the way, when they start Here's this upside down mentality now that the two parties perpetrate. Is, well, the Green Party, they're really, on the edge. They're extreme. And let's get rid of this word extremist here. It is extremist for the two parties to take money from corporations who pollute and poison our environment. It isn't extremist to say we're not going to allow those companies to do that anymore. It is extremist to take money from corporations that are corrupting our democracy and putting our own government up to the highest bidder. It is not extremist for the Green Party to start a movement to clean politics, start a movement to get dirty money out of politics. It is extremist for the two parties to take money from corporations that are commercializing childhood, that are getting into the minds and bodies of tiny children to sell them money, to sell them violent products. To sell them corporations that psych out 2-, 3-, 4-year-old kids, that try to separate children from their parents who are busy commuting back and forth trying to make ends meet. Corporations that are flooding these young children with programs that teach that violence is a solution to life's problems, that teach low-grade sensuality from junk food to pornography, that teach addiction as a way of life, turning these children into overweight and out-of-shape kids, gazing hour after hour in a very seductive manner, and knowing how to teach them to put a guilt trip on their parents when they come home. I say those corporations are electronic child molesters, and they've got to be counted. It is extremist for the two parties to take money from corporations who block workers in the tens of millions from being able to form trade unions in places like Walmart, Kmart, Burger King, and other giant retail establishments where they can't make a living wage, no matter how hard they work. And out of the mouths of Al Gore and George W. Bush, you will never hear in the next 8 weeks or after the phrase, "We will move to repeal the notorious Taft-Hartley Act of 1947. That is a chokehold on tens of millions of workers who are obstructed, unlike their fellow workers in Western Europe and Canada, from forming these trade unions so they can get a little more than $5.50 an hour, or $6.50 an hour, or $8 an hour. Not counting the costs of getting to work. It's not like you can take a public transit vehicle to a Walmart operation. A few weeks ago, a woman came up to us, and she was 45 years old, single parent. And I asked, where do you work? She says, Walmart. How much do you make? $6.60 an hour gross. Now, this is a company that is laughing all the way to the bank. Record profits quarter after quarter. Executives making millions of dollars a year each. And look what they're doing to the workers. Once these trade unions get stronger, once you have democratic unions with tens of millions more members, you're going to have a major countervailing force to giant power. You're going to have a major reform of our political system, a major redressing of the imbalance of power that is so severe between working people and giant corporations. We also need to focus on the issue of consumer protection. You know this Firestone tire thing you've been listening to or riding on? This is 88 deaths so far, hundreds of injuries. This is an example of deregulation. This is an example of the Clinton-Gore administration running our regulatory agencies into the ground to a point where our various groups that analyze and work with these agencies conclude that almost without exception, these regulatory agencies are worse today than they were even under Reagan-Bush. FDA, FAA, OSHA. OSHA is now a moribund agency. It hasn't issued a single toxic control standard in 8 years. There's never been a period in OSHA's history where that was done. And the one I helped build, the Auto Safety Agency, has been so detoothed that they've turned it into not a law enforcement agency, into a consulting firm for General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, and the tire industry. And it's that closing down, and essentially that agency that made 3 years go by without detecting those Firestone tire defects and how they mesh with Ford's rickety SUV Explorer. And this is what is happening in Washington. You can't even rely on the Democratic Party to be better in the regulatory area. You can't rely on them to be better in, say, the Department of Labor or the Department of Agriculture. It's like, it doesn't matter. There's a permanent government, a permanent corporate government in Washington, D.C. It doesn't matter in most instances who is in the White House, whether it's Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter looking at Al Gore and George Bush. It doesn't matter for State Department, for Defense Department, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, the Department of Commerce, Agriculture, the Department of Labor, the regulatory agencies. Matters a little bit in the Department of Interior, largely because of Babbitt. It matters a little bit, one might think, in some of the social services area, although I think the Republicans' bark is bigger than their bite, because they now want to cater more to minority groups, as you saw at the Republican convention. And symbolism is the first step for the Republican Party, of course. But in so many areas, and then of course they say, well, what about the Supreme Court? Whoa. That's the one we receive the most from these diehard Democrats who will stick to that party as it heads over the cliff into the Hades of corrupt politics. And I say to them, well, let's see, you really prepared us for a good Supreme Court, didn't you? When as a party, you couldn't even save this country from losing our Congress to the extreme wing of the opposing Republican Party. If we can't rely on you to save us from Newt Gingrich and Tom DeLay and Dick Armey and Trent Lott, what's left that we can rely on you to do? And I hold the Democratic Party responsible for the loss of the Congress. You can imagine what LBJ or Harry Truman would have done to the likes of Newt Gingrich. They would have had him for breakfast. But this is a party that's lost its identity. It doesn't know who it is anymore except raising more money from corporate interests. It caters to its right wing, like the DLC, and its corporate wing, because they know that these people can always vote Republican. And it looks at its soul, the soul of the Democratic Party historically, the progressive wing, and says, you got nowhere to go. Therefore, we don't have to respond to your agenda. We can turn around and respond to the agenda of the Democratic Leadership Council and the right wing of the party. Well, now, we are here today and convening all over the country to say to the Democratic Party that millions of progressive people will have a place to go from now on. We're going to raise a lot of interesting issues, including what we own as a society in our Commonwealth assets. We own the public lands, the public airwaves, the radio and TV. We own $5 trillion worth of pension funds. We don't control them. If we ever controlled what we legally own, we would have controlling interests in these corporations as owners through pension funds. We would have our own radio and TV stations and cable channels because we own the airwaves, and we could control and make sure that a portion of that time comes back to well-funded radio, TV, and cable channels. How are we going to fund it? Simple. We're going to end 70 years of free use of our property by the radio and TV stations who pay no rent to us, the landlord, no money to the FCC. They've had it free for 70 years. These giant broadcast stations and radio stations, they have had it free for 70 years, and it's time to get them off welfare and make them pay the rent. We're going to discuss what it takes to make the Green Party into a major party in a very short time. Here's what it takes. A good agenda that's wide and deep and that pays attention to basic needs of our country, pays attention to pro-democracy agendas, pays attention to labor, pays attention to the poor and people of color, pays attention to the environment, pays attention to consumer protection, health care, pays attention to preserving our sovereignty from its continued piece by piece surrender to WTO and NAFTA systems of secret and autocratic governance, and pays attention to public budgets for the public, not public budgets to subsidies, handouts, and all the other things to make rich corporations richer, and pays attention to the overriding issue that this country must rise forward into the future under the sovereignty of the people, not the sovereignty of global corporations. And what it takes, and here's what it takes, besides a good agenda. 1 million Americans pledging 100 hours a year of volunteer time and raising $100. If we can achieve that goal, we will be a majority party in a few years, because the two parties don't come close to 100 million volunteer hours a year. They don't come close to $100 million a year, and they don't come close to the great, just, and humanitarian and very practical agenda of the Green Party as it came out of its convention here in Denver in June of this year. And so when you think what our forebears went through to build the justice that we have inherited in this country, when you think of what the people who were leading the anti-slavery movement went through, Mississippi, Virginia, Georgia, when you think what women's right to vote advocates, suffrage movement went through, being spat on, being arrested, being kicked around because all they wanted was to get the right to vote. And by the way, a lot of industries opposed that too, because the women were in the forefront against child labor and other raw edges of the early industrial revolution. So both the liquor interests, industrial interests, other interests, railroad interests were against it. Think of what the early trade union strugglers went through when the detective goons were put upon them, hired by the steel and coal barons. Think of what the civil rights workers went through. And when you think about all that, and then you say 1 million Americans, 100 hours a year, $100 a year, it doesn't quite become one of history's great sacrifices, does it? Our generation may be the last one that has to sacrifice so little to achieve so much. So let me just hear, how many of you want to be part of that 1,100,100? Make sure, by the way, make sure there's a good sign-up sheet so we can get back to you. Our website is votenader.com or votenader.org. You want to get other people to log in, to volunteer, to give contributions, give us your ideas, give us your insights, things that we can use in the next 8 weeks. And by the way, we are practicing what we preach. We are not taking PAC money. We are not taking soft money. We are only taking money from individuals, the maximum amount of which individuals under federal law can give up to $2,000. We have tens of thousands of volunteers who are already logged in. We have hundreds of coordinators around the country. We have over 900 campus coordinators at universities and colleges, and we've got almost 50 full-time people working around the country. So we're going all out in an effort from a small but growing base. And it's particularly important for you to multiply your friends and relatives and co-workers in this effort. Really talk it up. Every major social movement in our history was based on talking it up, talking up to people who didn't know the issues or didn't think they could get involved and didn't want to respond. Talk it up. By the way, when they keep saying, well, you know, you got to vote for a winner and this is a small party in Canada, here's the two-step sequence. You say to your friends, would you like your members of Congress to vote their conscience? And they'll all say, yes. And then you say, why don't you? Why don't you? Do you want to vote your fears? Want to vote your fears for the lesser of two evils when at the end of the day they're still evil? You want to vote your fears? Now, I've got to tell you a little story. Did you ever see that our little television spot? Is a parody on MasterCard's Priceless. Well, MasterCard sued me a couple weeks ago for $15 million, saying that I violated its trademark in the word priceless. Take a look at that one, huh? They put a price on priceless. And you know that corporations are commercializing our dictionary. They're taking phrases and trademarking them, words and trademarking them, etc. So then they accuse me also, you should read the complaint, the legal complaint. I sent it to Saturday Night Live. The legal complaint. I actually may be on that next month. So, I'm supposed to be on Jay Leno on Tuesday. Anyway, they said that I was trying to enhance our political campaign of the Nader Leduc ticket by exploiting the popular reputation and goodwill of MasterCard. Me, who's gone after the credit card companies for 20 years for gouging, ripping off, penalties, fees, invasion of privacy, and they're saying I'm lunching off their reputation. So I had a press conference the next day denouncing them, and actually it made our day because all the media had to report all this, and guess what they had to play? Free. The 30-second ad. Actually, I think the networks and other media enjoyed playing that ad again because a lot of them use MasterCard, you know. They know what it's like. We were in California campaigning, and Dick Cheney was coming up the coast about a half a day behind us, so we would hear that in Santa Barbara he had dinner, and you paid $25,000 a plate to have dinner with Dick Cheney. And then he went up a few hundred miles up and he had a meeting where for $5,000 you could shake his hands. So I thought maybe if we had enough money to do another television spot, we could do one for Winona. It would go like this. Dinner with Dick Cheney, $25,000. Handshake with Dick Cheney, $5,000. Lunch with Winona LaDuke, priceless. The key here is to maintain this enthusiasm and to realize that this is a movement of thought, not of belief. It's good to have beliefs, but good to have preceded by some thought. We know how to document our case. We have piles of evidence and information. Become educators in your own right in the next 8 weeks. You know, I always say that an important function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not to produce more followers. And we have 500 people here who exercise their leadership and go out into their neighborhood and their communities and call up TV shows and radio talk shows and write letters to the editor and op-eds and daily just talk it up especially within your circle. And we will come to the polls in November here in Colorado with a vote total that will surprise the pundits in Washington. Thank you very much. I just noticed I didn't finish the Supreme Court point. Let me just finish it quickly. When you say Democrats, who are the two worst justices? They'll say Scalia and Thomas. I looked up the vote recently. The vote in the Senate confirming Scalia was 98-0. And the only two people who didn't vote were Republicans. And the vote for Clarence Thomas after the Anita Hill hearings in a Senate that was dominated by the majority Democrats was 52-48. 11 Democratic votes took him over the top and confirmed him. So just remember that when you get these bleedings by them. And then you might say, how about Justice Warren, Brennan, Stevens, Blackmun, and Souter? They were all appointed by Republicans. And they were a lot better than people such as Whizzer White, appointed by President Kennedy. So you might look at them in the eye after you tell them all this and say, you quite clearly, my friend, are possessed of a clairvoyance that I am not possessed. We have a few quick questions. Yes?
We have a candidate for Congress here who will be the first Green to be elected to Congress.
Yes.
Ron Forthover over in the corner.
Where is Ron?
He has a good chance.
Come on up here, Ron. Good. You all know him? Very good. He's out of Boulder, right? Out of Boulder. Big turnout out of Boulder. The Democrats are really worried about that race because they think it's going to be close between Tweedledum and Tweedledee, and that the Green Party is going to decide it. Well, wouldn't that be nice? Decide it. Why was it that close? Why should it be that close? The Democratic Party remembered its historical roots. In Boulder, Colorado, it wouldn't have been that close. It's close because they've lost their historical roots. Someone else?
Here. What are you going to do about U.S. imperialist terrorist bombings in Iraq, Kosovo, and its general terrorist foreign policy?
Well, the sanctions on Iraq are criminal in nature. They're imposed by the U.S. through the United Nations. They're killing 5,000 Iraqi children a month. Both the Physicians Task Force who's gone over there, prominent U.S. physicians have documented that, and the UN studies itself. The Green Party foreign policy is one that says, look, there's no more Soviet Union. What's the excuse? No more support of dictators and oligarchs. We're going to support the peasants and workers. Human rights, everybody's rights. Well, the problem is that the corporate rights are superseding so many, both procedurally and substantively, the rights of people. This is what I meant when I said the sovereignty of corporations over the sovereignty of the people. You'll look at our website, and we basically approve the now women's rights agenda. It's very concise, very good. I didn't have to change a word. So look at our website, votenader.com. By the way, I was talking about economic sanctions. Not the military sanctions on Iraq, the economic sanctions, which more and more nations are condemning, and the devastation is just horrible. I don't know if you saw the 60-minute program on this 4 years ago with Leslie Stahl, but she interviewed Madeleine Albright after showing the babies and others dying because they can't get medicines, because that's prohibited. It can be used for military purposes. They can't get catheters. They can't get all the basic things because it's in theory, can all be diverted. Like a child catheter cannot be exported to Iraq because it can be diverted to some military use. And Leslie Stahl asked Madeleine Albright, well, you saw this, you said, is it worth it? And Madeleine Albright said, it's worth the price. What price? It just makes the dictator of Iraq able to repress his people even more because he points to the foreign devils who are strangling the export of key medicines and equipment. for the Iraqi people. Well, yes. Way back, is that a, pardon? Yeah, well, there's a lot of interaction with the German Green Party and the Scandinavian, French, Italian Green Parties. The Green Party starting now in Africa. Really a very wonderful development coming out of several African countries. At the convention here in Denver, there was a whole delegation of Green Parties from around the world who came to observe the convention and to link up on issues of common concern. Yes?
Ralph, can you talk about the third world genius for a moment?
Yes, I was mentioning, the IMF and World Bank think they have the answers to development overseas. When you have such genius innovations that most people have never heard of, and they never get support, like Hassan Fathy in Egypt, the architect who passed away 11 years ago, who taught Egyptian peasants how to build their own little elegant homes from the soil under their feet, and now has a group around the world trying to emulate his genius. And then there was Paulo Freire in Brazil, an educator who taught peasants in Brazil how to become literate in very simple, inexpensive programs. And of course, there's the microcredit effort that's so successful in Bangladesh. So we've got to locate these people, these great innovators coming up from literally the dust and the dirt of their local environments and the oppression and poverty, and give them higher visibility. Yes?
Could you speak about the death penalty for a minute?
Opposed? Well, the Green Party is the only party opposed to the death penalty. I've been opposed to the death penalty since law school. I mean, study after study shows no deterrence. It's very discriminatorily applied, especially because the lawyers representing poor and minorities are usually not very competent, if indeed they can stay awake. And for those of you who care about the economics, it's more expensive to pursue a capital punishment case than to put a first-degree murder conviction behind a convictee behind bars for life without parole. I'm sorry we have to end it right now, but go forward. This is I just first started the Mercury Cafe, and let's give a big hand. Let's give a big hand to the proprietors of the Mercury Cafe.
Ralph Nader. Could Andy Goldman and Jane please work their way to the back here to lead with Ralph? I'd like to remind you that Ralph talked about our 100 million hours and $100 million. We all need you to contribute. We have sign-up lists out at the front door. We need help from all of you. We have a webpage at www.greens.org/Colorado/Nader2000. You can go and sign up there. We have donation jars going around, whether you can give us a quarter or $10 or $100 if you're writing a check. It goes to Nader2000 General Committee. It's up to us to make this campaign happen, and that means it's up to all of you. Colorado, as Nancy said before, has more unaffiliated voters. The Nader campaign is focusing on Colorado, and it's up to us for Nader to win this state so our electors can go to the Electoral College next January to vote for Ralph Nader. One last reminder that tickets for the Jackson Brown Bonnie Raitt benefit are still available up here in the front on my right. If you haven't gotten one, they're almost sold out. This will probably be your last chance to buy them. If you're interested, please come up here and talk to Lisa about doing that. Look for the donation jars going around, look for the sign-up sheet down below, and look for our campaign office in the next week so you can join us and help us build this campaign, build the Green Party. Thanks.
Also, we have a red notebook going around, a sign-up sheet. If someone has the notebook, can you please see me with it? And we have sandwiches available at the bar. We have turkey sandwiches for $5, vegan sandwiches with beans and avocado, which are vegan, for $4 and fruit plates for $1.50. And thank you.
You like Ralph Nader? You're willing to cram into a small room in some hippie den, be all sweaty and stinky all next to each other just to hear some guy talk about consumer advocacy and some environmental stuff. Living wage, you're alive right now. What are you talking about? Okay, well, we have to go. We have a jet to catch. We see that we're not well liked here.
You need to vote your fears, not your hopes.
We don't want this kind of politics around here. All right, hi. My name is Nancy Harvey. Thanks so much to all of you for coming. Pleasure of being the Colorado campaign coordinator for the Nader 2000 campaign. It's really exciting. Like Karen said before, we're in the midst of a really exciting campaign here. Nationally, poll numbers are going back up. Ralph Nader's appearance a few weeks ago in Portland, Oregon drew 10,000 people that paid money to see a politician speak. Doesn't happen very often, and it was sold out. There are plans now to organize another 3 or 4 events like that around the country. Just imagine the kind of press we could get if we could pull that off, and we might even try for one here, so we'll keep you posted. Locally, the campaign has been drawing many enthusiastic supporters. Our meetings have had over 40 and 50 people showing up in Denver and Boulder. Hundreds of volunteers have already signed up, and we have gathered a great campaign team together to take us into the last 9 weeks. There's only 9 weeks left before Election Day. Around the state, there are a lot of activities as well. There's Robert and Ruth Mahaney that are organizing like crazy.
Yeah, one of those Ivy League schools. I can't remember. I have to look at my diploma. Anything above an F is intelligence. Am I a frat boy? Of course.
Who runs the Presidential Debate Commission?
Anheuser-Busch runs the Presidential Debate Commission.
This one's for you. This bush is for you.
This bush is for you.
What's your favorite brand of cigarettes?
They'll follow you home and beat you up.
This bud's for you?
This bush is for you.
Oh, Bush. What? Your question?
This debate is coming up. It's for the club. Where's ours?
Where's your debate?
Yeah.
It'll probably be on Larry King.
You don't seriously think we're going to let an intelligent person like Ralph Nader debate these 2 dummies we've got running for president, do you? I mean, come on!
Well, there is commercial space still available. And I believe that if Nader's serious, he should buy some commercial space during that time. And then he can use that to debate them. He'll have a 30-second rebuttal against all their 10 minutes of time, which is about equal or greater than what I understand the polls are right now. So our candidate has about 80%, is running about 80%, 85% in the polls right now, which equals about 40% of the actual population. So join the other 60% in complete apathy, go home and watch TV, watch the debates, enjoy, drink a Budweiser, smoke the Philip Morris, and just kick back and let us run the show. We've been doing it for hundreds of years, and it's a two-party system. Quit shaking things up. You're just making it bad on yourselves.
See, it's not like you don't have a choice. You've got the anti-abortion corporate party and the pro-choice corporate party. So, I mean, what's all this Green Party nonsense?
Squeeze in.
They want to squeeze more of you in here. I can't believe that so many of you have turned out to see this man speak. Can you repeat after me? This is what plutocracy looks like. Come on, you're not enthusiastic. This is what plutocracy looks like. This is what plutocracy looks like. This is what plutocracy looks like. Okay, now that I've got that through your head, you're going to vote for one of our two-party candidates. No. Come on, it's very hot in here. We can all go home.
Look, come on, people. We've got a nice, cozy little system here. We've spent a lot of our unearned money buying off the Democrats and Republicans, and now you people come along and want to mess with things? I mean, really? Get with the program, will you please?
Autograph copy in a book by William Buckley. Come on. Must be somebody here who wants to buy this. It's worth $1 million.
Have you ever heard of the Electoral College? We own them. It's $1 million per vote. Which one of you in here has $1 million to step up and buy an Electoral College vote here in Colorado? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, you! Oh, see?
That's our slogan, $1 million, one vote.
All right, any questions for us?
Where's Nader?
Where's Nader?
We kidnapped him.
He's at the Broncos game. How much did it cost to buy Gore and Bush?
How much did it cost combined? Probably. Gore and Bush? Well, what we do is we basically invest in the two candidates, and we get usually somewhere up to 100,000 to 1 on our return through what's called lobbying. That's what you call it. We call it investment. Bribery. That's a very dangerous word.
Do you have to buy them, or do they give it away free?
Hey, our kids go to the same school.
No, if they gave it away free, they wouldn't be what they are. Which I think you follow me on that.
Rather than chippy.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, what store is that?
One at a time, please. See, you guys are all just climbing all over each other to get at us.
Presidential debate committee.
What school do I go to?
Down in Pueblo, where there was no Green Party before. They probably already distributed a couple thousand flyers on Nader campaign and the green values and why we're all doing this. There's also activity in Colorado Springs, and on the western slope, Nader was just at a rally last night in Montrose, and we're organizing people down there in some of the little mountain towns. Up in Fort Collins, the Poudre Valley Greens yesterday were hard at work. They had a protest outside Anheuser-Busch to bring attention. And then across the state, Damon Haley has been coordinating student groups all across campuses. And energy there is involved in this campaign. I'm sure all these efforts will receive a tremendous boost when we open up our official campaign office in Denver this week, which should be opening on Wednesday if all goes well. 2785 North Spear Boulevard, Suite 305 in Denver is going to be the place where we hope a lot of you will come and help us answer phones, do mailings, and all kinds of stuff. We need volunteers, so hopefully we'll see you there. We'll probably be having an open house party sometime around maybe the 22nd. So if you sign up on our volunteer sign-up sheets, they're at the table downstairs. We'll definitely get a hold of you. We do a lot of things via email, so we'll let you know when it's happening. Also, there are many ways for you to get involved. There's everything from phone banks to mailing parties to helping us out, and also with money, because to take a big grassroots green effort, we need your green dollars as well. So what you can do for that is make checks payable to the Nader 2000 General Committee. And you can sign the volunteer sheets, visit our website. We have a wonderful website at www.greens.org/Colorado/Nader2000. And also, of course, most of you have seen the amazing Nader website, www.votenader.org. A couple other things I wanted to mention. We want to get everyone to get their voices mentioned about getting Ralph in the debates. We have these great yellow flyers on the table. Pick those up. There's things that says what you can do. So please add your voice. Already there's been over 64% of the people in America said they want him in the debates. There's an electronic petition that already 60,000 people have signed and said, yes, let's get him in the debates. So please add your voice to that. It's going to take all of us to do that. We also wanted to...
We're really proud that so many folks in Denver could make it with no notice here today for Ralph. We got some good speakers. We got the billionaires for Bush or Gore to help us warm up. Let's hear it for our chickens. We're also going to hear from Nancy Harvey, who's the Colorado campaign coordinator for Nader. We're going to hear from Ron Forthover, who's the candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. And we're going to hear from Dennis DeMayo, who is with the National Writers Union, who has been following Nader. So thanks again for coming. Let's get friendly. Let's give the Merc some business, because Maryland and the Merc rock. Take it away, billionaire.
Quiet down, peasants. I'm actually quite miffed at why you're all here, because our candidates have already won. So you're just deluding yourselves by being here, because we've already picked our candidates and we already had our celebration in Philadelphia and Los Angeles. We had a big party and a lot of people came out. We spent a lot of money and we ate a lot of food.
And they're all paid off already.
What I want to know is, what are you people doing here? We don't pay you enough for you to come out to an event like this. You're supposed to be out there working, making more money for us. So let's get with the program, people, okay?
Don't you know there's a football game on right now? The resistance is futile.
Borg.
$1 billion. Come on, there must be somebody.
Step up and be bought off. How can we buy your vote?
Just remember our slogan, people. Bush or Gore, Bush or Gore. We don't care who you vote for. We own them both.
going to start with a little chant.